Live from Sacramento City Hall, it's the SacVibes podcast.
Okay, what's up, everybody? I'm Greg with the Community Engagement Team, and we are here to educate, engage, and empower.
And I'm your co-host, Lynette Hall.
And I'm a guest today. I'm Ari Green. I am also a community engagement analyst on the team.
I feel like you're a co-host. I don't know if you're a
Okay.
guest
We're all
anymore.
co-hosts, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And
So
I'm
scratch that.
You're here with us.
I'm filling in for Danielle, who's out on vacation today. Hello, Danielle, if you're listening. You better be listening. Put a secret message in here.
I don't think she's listening to the podcast right now.
Okay. How y'all doing? How was the weekend?
The weekend was pretty good. We had a couple of events, community engagement, had to go attend. We have City Management Academy, and one of our past alumni had an event, Interns to Pros. It was really focused on parents and kids. It was hosted at the Oak Park Community Center. And so we weren't tabling, but we just wanted to go and support our cohort from the City Management Academy. And it was good to see at the check-in table, it was another alumni from the City Management Academy, and they had met during City Management Academy. And so it was just good to see them networking and connecting and supporting each other. So that's what we want to see.
Yes, shout out to CMA alumni. Do you want to say their names?
Mitchell and Miss Deb.
Yes.
How was your weekend?
It was good. Did a lot. I have a hard time remembering now. So many things. I had a retreat at my house for the board I work with.
What kind of retreat?
The Filipino organization I'm with, PNDA.
Speaking of Filipino, shout out, it's Filipino History Month this month, so super excited about that. Council recognized them as well. And then, unfortunately, we had to work yesterday, but my daughter had school off because they recognize our indigenous folks. And so it was Indigenous Peoples Day yesterday. So
That's
I
right.
want to shout out that. How about your weekend?
Pretty chill, a little busy. You guys know I'm on the timeline and I'm on the crunch to finishing the dissertation. So I was in there typing away. And yeah, that's really it. Also, I was my mom's arm candy at a work event.
Okay. That's cool. I had a birthday party. My daughter had a birthday party she attended.
Oh, I thought it was her birthday.
No, it wasn't her birthday.
Oh, okay.
But this is the first time I received a Google Doc for the gifts that the little girl wanted. She sent everyone literally a two-page Google Doc.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And it was organized by like skincare, the brands of the skincare, then it was like clothes, the stores, then it was like gift cards, and then the specific gift cards, and then even candy had a section, and she was very specific about the candy. So I was waiting for a PowerPoint presentation. I thought that was going to be the next thing.
Is there a slide deck, ma'am?
No, for real. So slide deck.
Complete with links,
Materials.
like a link tree with all the products?
But it was really, really nice. The parents went all out, and it was really, really nice. So
That's awesome. Guess can't falter. The girl knows what she likes.
Birthday parties used to be cake and pizza
absolutely.
back in the day, but oh well.
So, yeah, I can do a recap of council from last week. Again, like I said, they recognized Filipino History Month. Some of the key takeaways. So, council last week, there wasn't a lot of discussion items. There were a bunch of things that are on consent. And so for those of you that don't know, you can put items on the consent calendar and there's no discussion. And so unless a council member decides to pull it for a separate vote or to pull it for a discussion, they just vote to approve the consent calendar. And so some of the things on the consent calendar consisted of they appointed 2 new hearing examiners. And these are folks that hear administrative penalties that are imposed by code enforcement. And so they serve a term of 4 years. And I'm actually a hearing officer for appeals. So after these folks hear the case and decide that they are going to assess a penalty, a financial penalty or fee, if you want to appeal that process, an appeal is always available. And you can actually receive somewhat of like a scholarship if you can't afford the appeal fee. So I always encourage people, if you need to appeal, you do have that option. And I'm one of the appeal officers. So my job is if it's going to create a financial hardship, you can lay out your case to me. So I look at all of the evidence. I look at what the city code enforcement officers say, but then you also have an opportunity to tell me not why the penalty shouldn't be assessed, because the penalty is assessed, but you can tell me why you can't pay. And then I have the ability of either removing the fee, I can lower the fee, I can break the fee up into payments. And so just want folks to know about that. Some of the other cool things was the Arts and Culture Department got approval to do a new revised individual artists grant program. And this program previously provided up to $10,000 for individual artists. And they did some revisions, and the revisions are now they will provide payments monthly of $850 for a year. So it'll end up being about $10,200. And they have enough funding for 200 artists.
That's
and
a lot.
It's a lot, and
That's
it's
a lot.
super cool. So it's somewhat of like a guaranteed income program specifically for artists. And when I say artists, you can be someone that is in craft, dance, design, literature, media arts, music. If you do performance art, theater, visual arts, these are all things that are applicable. You must be 18 years or older, and you must reside in the city of Sacramento during the application and also during the duration of the 12 months. So we are looking forward to that. It'll probably go live, I would say, at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
So January, start following us on social media. We'll make sure that we post about it. So if you're following us on social media and you're an artist, you will know about that opportunity.
That's
That's
awesome.
cool.
That is.
Super cool.
Also, Latinx Heritage Month also ended.
Yes, it did. Latinx
Right.
Heritage Month ended.
October. This actually ended today, right? It goes like in between.
It's like a middle, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
9:15 to
Yeah.
10:15. So, shout out the Latinx homies.
Yes, absolutely.
I wanted to go back to your appeals officer work.
Mhm.
Is that related to like your fines and fees work as well? Because I feel like there was some correlation there.
Well, yes and no. I was appointed by the city manager, and I wanted to take it on in addition to my other duties, just because I know that fines and fees impact people, low-income people, and people of color. And so having the opportunity to be able to hear from people and to decide on whether or not they have to pay or how much they pay, I thought it was super important for me to take that on. And so I enjoy it. And so actually tomorrow, I do it every few months. We switch up. There's some other hearing officers. So tomorrow, majority of my day will be spent listening to cases.
Okay.
And so, if you really can't afford to pay it, it makes no sense for the city to try to collect it.
Right,
We don't
right.
want to put people further in debt.
That's right.
But I hear cases from folks who own multiple properties and they're living in San Francisco or San Jose, and they're just neglecting their properties here in the city of Sacramento. And so when I hear those, it's like, oh no, you're going to pay.
Exactly.
So, but if you're a person, you only have one house, you're on a fixed income, you're an elder on a fixed income, and maybe you didn't see the sign because it was in English and you don't
Yeah.
speak English and you didn't know
Right,
about it,
right.
and this is the first time you've been fined.
Yeah.
It's a good chance that I'll eliminate or reduce that fee. So,
That's cool. That's cool. That's equitable.
I was
Yeah.
about to say that's good equitable work.
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
if you can
Absolutely.
pay, you're going to pay. If you
That's right.
can't, then we're going to address it.
Speaking of equitable, I think that's a good segue to our next topic. I want to spend some time talking about our why as community engagement team. All of us came to the city for specific reasons, and I think a lot has to do with the mission and purpose of our team. And for those of you that know, we usually start our podcast with the line that we says, but we're here to educate, engage, and empower. And that's a shortened version of our actual purpose, which is to create a platform that educates, engages, and empowers people, businesses, and places, especially areas and residents that have been disproportionately underserved. So I want to spend some time with y'all just hearing from both you guys and me as well talking about, what's our why when we do this work, and what brought you to the city.
Well, if you've ever heard me talk, I always say resources and opportunities are only as good as knowing about them. And for so long, the same people benefited off of knowing about the opportunities and resources. And so when I took this job, it was an opportunity for me to make sure that everybody knows about resources and opportunities at the
Right.
same time.
Right.
So even when you think about translations and interpreting, oftentimes it came after the fact. And so that means folks that speak English knew about the opportunities and resources before the folks that didn't.
That's right.
And so we want to make sure that we kind of level the playing field, or to provide a little bit extra for those that need it. And so I do it because it's the right thing to do, and I like to help people. And so everybody needs help at some point, and so I get to get up every day and try to help people and make people's life a little bit easier. So that's why I do it.
Nice.
Awesome.
What about you?
I like to piggyback on that. I think also a lot of my why stems from the work that I do related to my academic work. So again, I do a lot of research on displacement and gentrification, and so that means connecting community members and residents with resources to prevent those measures. And so also just making sure they're aware of city resources. Like you just said, Lynette, some people or resources are only as good as if people can use them, right? And so if city employees are working around the clock, making sure we have great programming, great initiatives, and great projects to support the residents, but the residents don't know about them, then we can't really measure how good our programming is here at the city.
Right.
And so I think, again, just connecting people to resources and also connecting them to their heritage. We want people to thrive here. We want businesses to thrive here, and we want the places to stay here, right? A city is only as good as its
People.
residents and the businesses and the places. And so the more we pour into them, the more we get them to stay. And I think that's a big part of my why.
Yeah.
Why do you do it?
Well, I also wanted, before I go into me, I also wanted to shout out the fact that you are from one of the districts and you rep District 2 specifically.
I do.
And for me, that's like a dream job. Like, I grew up in Vallejo. And one day, if Vallejo ever came calling.
Wait, Vallejo. Did we pat you down? We should have patted you down before we came into security.
Hey.
Like, wait
Vallejo
a second.
has hard times, but, it's all good. But,
Yeah.
I would love to work in the city I grew up in.
Yeah.
And, I mean, does that have any more thing for you in terms of working here?
Absolutely. I grew up in D2 literally all my life. My parents still live in the childhood home that I grew up in. I think 2 of the 3 schools that I attended are closed now. And so I think that plays also a big part in my why, just of like, when I grow up and when I have children, I won't be able to tell them like, hey, this is where I went to school because it no longer exists. Things of that nature. So, and I think also, and I think Lynette tells this story too, like I was on the redistricting commission. And so one, just being able to leave Sacramento and then come back home and then also work for my city is super full circle moment.
I love working for the city that I'm from.
Yeah.
I was working previously before this, I was working in San Francisco. And when this job announcement came out, 2 or 3 people sent me the job announcement the same day. And they were like, this is your job. And I read it and I was like, this is my job.
Yeah.
This is me. Nobody's going to do this job better than me. Because I'm really passionate about Sacramento and I love Sacramento. I understand the challenges of Sacramento and I think it helps me do my job better. It's one thing to come in as someone from government. It's something else where people know me. They know my family. They know my grandparents. I can relate to small businesses. I grew up. I'm a product of small businesses. I'm able to relate to folks in rural areas. We grew up in farming, so grew up around people who didn't speak English. My father is bilingual. He speaks Spanish. And so I was able to, I can bring that where I can relate to folks. And so I love it.
I can confirm, for those of you listening, everywhere we go, It's
Somebody
either
knows
somebody
them.
knows Lynette or knows Lynette's mom or dad.
That's right.
And you're so and so, blah blah blah. I'm like, who are you? And she has to. You can watch her in her head. She's trying to figure out how she knows.
Right.
Going through the file.
And sometimes
file
I don't.
cabinet.
I just like, hey, and I don't. But I also live in the house that my grandparents owned. And
Oh,
so
that's cool.
my bedroom was my grandparents' bedroom.
Yeah.
My daughter is in the room that my mom grew up in.
Oh,
And
that's
so
dope.
I
it's
love it.
super cool. And just being in the neighborhood, we're from Oak Park, and you know, if we walk to the store, it's folks, you Mr. Hall's granddaughter, you know, and so I feel safe in my community.
That's right.
Because everybody knows and remembers my grandparents, and so it's just a level of respect that folks
Wow.
always had. I remember growing up sitting on the porch, and people would be cursing and like sagging their pants, and they knew when you got to Mr. Hall's house, you better pull your pants up. So
That's
they
right.
pull their pants up until they got past the gate, and then they'd pull them back down. Like seriously. And
love it.
so it was that level of respect that my family always, because they respected people, and if you respect folks, they'll respect you.
That's right.
For sure.
And I think that like that type of like commitment also contributes to the why. It's it helps embed us in the work that we do.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important. People feel like there's more honesty and more transparency when they know that the people that they're working with and engaging with are from the community as well.
Yes, 100%. 100%, I agree.
There's a trust factor there that is hard to create because we know trust can easily disappear, but it's hard to build it when you don't trust the people that you're working with.
Yeah.
And that goes community members. They are quick to tell you, I don't trust them. I'm not going to talk to them.
That's interesting you bring that up, because I think that's one of the reasons why I got into this work.
That's right.
Um,
You going to tell us your why?
yeah, I'm about to. I got to click on my face here first. There you go. And I got involved. I started my career here in Sacramento, working in community. I didn't even know I was organizing at the time, but I guess that's what you call it. I was just hanging out with young folk
Yeah.
and just listening, right? And it comes out that I'm a good listener, what people tell me, because people would tell me all their problems, like, hey, I'm here to show you music, because people were asking me how to do music. I'm also a musician, I'm a DJ and all that, but back in the day I was doing production, and the youth would come around, hang out, and want to learn how I did things, so I kind of made that part of the work that I did. And I just knew how to build trust with people, right?
That's right.
I have the privilege of feeling at home in a lot of different places. In Vallejo, where I grew up, here in Sacramento, and Davis, where I went to school, and then when I got my career started, and then in Seattle, I feel at home there. So I think it does go back to trust, right? When I came in as a newcomer all the time in all these different communities, and I had to work my way in with folks, and that's not easy all the time, especially in Seattle, because I got that Seattle nice thing going on.
Yeah.
Shout out to my Seattle homies, but you know what I'm talking about. Whereas it's like they're cool with you, but then they're not really trying to mess with you until you really kind of show your worth.
Open up a little bit.
Yeah. And up there, I had to like start a nonprofit, not start a nonprofit, but worked at a nonprofit in the Chinatown area, and really try to make a difference, and people saw that, and then they started messing with us. Down here, same thing. I worked at a nonprofit in South Sac in D6. I worked all over that area at Wilsey Wood, Hiram Johnson, West Campus, George Sims Center, Max Bear. Oh, that whole area is where I got my start. And seeing the young people and the families living there, you always hear about hoods. And that was outside of Vallejo, that was my first time, working in a different hood, right?
Yeah.
And nobody knew me, and nobody didn't give a damn about me. But as I started doing work and working with families, they grew to trust me, right? And seeing how things were happening to their families and their kids, but not in other areas, it made me want to look for justice.
That's right.
It made me want to try to do something different, because it was a thing for me for justice, social justice, what have you.
Yeah.
It was just like you said, respect. And my experience, I had the privilege of going to Catholic school, and I still got profiled.
Yeah.
Still things happen to me when I'd be going in Vallejo, driving around, getting profiled at the mall or whatever, and I was like, that's not cool. And I didn't realize that other kids were going through that too, and to be able to help advocate for things like that and change, or just to listen to folks and hear them out and say, nah, that's not all you are. You're more than that, right?
That's right.
So me being able to build trust with folks, when I saw the description, I was like, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. Community engagement. Okay, I think I can do that, right?
Yeah.
I have a lot of experience, building with folks. And then when I had to take the exam, you have to take this analyst exam when we applied.
And you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, I was like, what is all the statistics? I don't remember all this. Like, I almost didn't finish the thing because I was like, I don't know if this is the right job for me. But somebody told me, no, just keep going. They had to do it like that for a specific reason or whatever. But anyway, long story short, I think it's important for me to, like, for everywhere I go, neighborhoods are the same.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And folks are dealing with stuff. They're not at the table. And I want to help, not necessarily equal the playing field, but just make sure that they're represented, fairly and they know how things work.
Well, I'm glad you finished the test. I'm glad you are here with us. I brag about how great our team is all the time. We are so different, but we are so alike. And I think what it is we are all really passionate about making people's lives better. Yeah. And we really want to do good. And we really want to show a different side of government. And it's authentic.
Yeah.
It's not fake. It's not for the gram. It's real.
I always tell people that, like, I don't even know if it's a skill, but I feel like it is. I always tell people that, like, you did a great job curating your team, and if most people took the time to go through that process to, like, handpick their team and curate a team like that, because curation is hard. So, like, curating a team of different personalities is also hard as well. But to put our team together, we do function and we all cohesively go together.
It was very strategic, and I just have to thank my leadership because every manager or director or department head, they don't have that ability. Sometimes you get into a job and the folks are already selected. I was super blessed that this was a new team, and so I was able to build it from scratch. And it was strategic. When we brought you on, we sat down with a whiteboard and we looked at and we put, what the pros and the cons and what strengths and weaknesses. We looked at what we were deficient in as a group. We were very aware of what we needed. And so, so we were able to kind of put folks together. And I tell people, like, I always said I wanted to build a team that reflected the diversity of Sacramento. And I want folks, when they look at our team, everyone can see somebody that relates to them.
That's right.
Whether it's gender, whether it's ethnicity, whether it's language, age, we got it all, right? And then even our skill sets. Everybody has different skill sets. So we looked at that. We looked at what the different skill sets were, because I didn't want everybody that had the same strengths, right? It's like wherever I'm weak at, I need somebody that's strong there. And so, what are you laughing at, Greg?
That's why I'll be asking you, can you check this? Because, I'm creatively declined. Like,
I want to know what you over there snickering about.
Right. What you thought of?
I'm just laughing because the interview process, I was very blunt and straight to the point about what I wanted to do. And I was like, you know what you're going to get when you invite me to this, right?
Yeah.
And you're okay with that, racial equity and justice. And I was there talking about working with people that are doing sideshows. Because
I will never forget that. I was like, did he just say sideshows? And I was like, okay.
Because it's like, to be able to engage in different ways, I'm always thinking outside the box, right?
Yeah.
And if folks are able to get hella people to come out to do something like that, there's skills there, there's talent there, right? And how do we engage and leverage that for good and for representation? That's what I'm interested in. We're going where the folks are. So that's what I was laughing at.
Well, and I'm like, because if it was, times change where it's been not good with sideshows here in the city of Sacramento.
Right.
And it's like it always takes a few fools
To mess
it up for everybody. Because I grew up in sideshows, right? But we weren't shooting and killing people and doing all of this crazy stuff. So it's always a few fools that mess it up for the masses. Because it's really a way, like, it's like they're organized. It's like, how did they get the memo?
Right.
They do great marketing,
about the
promoting.
notice,
Like,
right.
how did
And it's all hidden too. You never know about it until it happens, right?
Yep. And
So-
it's definitely a culture, right?
it's definitely a
it's
culture.
people.
It's a
It
community.
started by people of color.
That's right.
It's kind of like I remember growing up, the Mexican folks would ride up and down. They started the whole
the lowriders.
the lowriders up and
Yep.
down Broadway, right? And it was a cultural thing,
That's
right?
right.
And so you have to acknowledge culture and you have to embrace it.
That's
And
right.
so, so unfortunately, it is illegal with the sideshows now. And so we don't encourage any sideshows, but we acknowledge the value that they've had in our community for a lot of years.
Yeah. I've seen some that are organized, and I think they're taking them to specific areas that look safer when I see them on the gram. I'm not going to name names, but
Yeah.
I see y'all out
Don't be
there
on her dry snitching.
trying.
And don't be hanging out
No
the
way.
windows and on top of the car. Like, it's just not safe. It's not okay. Right.
Yeah, it isn't safe, but you know what? I mean, that's what they do, and that's
Yeah.
what they do, right? So
That's right.
as long as they're aware, they're adults, right?
But you brought your authentic self to the interview, and that's what I appreciate. And, I tell people this. It was interesting how very few people, I think I asked a question about diversity in the interview, and very few people felt like it was comfortable to talk about how diversity was a strength.
Yeah.
They
That's
never
right.
saw it as a strength. They saw it as a weakness, and they saw it as something that they wanted to hide.
Yeah.
And they, particularly folks of color, are Asian and Indian. They were always, and even our Hispanic, they were always taught to try to assimilate into white culture and American culture, as opposed to embracing and uplifting their culture. And I was like, nope, that's not what I want you to do. I want you to be your authentic self.
How I talk here is how I talk at home, except for probably more curse words at home.
Definitely more curse words at home.
So I appreciate that. I feel like this is a space where we can bring our authentic selves, and understanding that you can be authentically you and be professional.
Yeah.
And we were always taught that that was not the case, right?
Right.
And so I want to show folks that you can be you. As an African American woman, I make it a point to, when I'm photographed, if you see me in the Sac Observer, my hair is usually natural, because I want little brown girls to see someone that embraces their hair, because hair matters for a lot of people of color. And
It
so
does.
for a long time, I used to always have to have my hair straight and pressed, because I was taught, even from my parents, that was what was professional.
Yep.
And so I make it a point to make sure that little girls see people that look like them, and that it's okay.
Yeah. I think my new favorite part of the job, now that I'm here, I've been here at the city for 2 years now, almost 3, is that, not only are we comfortable being our authentic selves at work, but I get to help influence what local government can look like in the future,
That's
right? We're doing podcasts, we're doing Instagram now, things that other cities don't do.
Don't do.
I'm having hella fun doing it. I'll be like making reels and just laughing at my desk and like, okay, I'm
Cracking
gonna
up,
get
too.
fired with this, but oh well, people like it.
Absolutely.
Somebody messed up and put me in charge of this.
Our leadership was always like, what do you want to do now, Lynette? But they always support it. And so we couldn't do
Because
what
we go
do.
back to our purpose,
Yeah,
we're
that's
trying
right.
to get folks that are not usually at the table to be interested in what we're talking about, how we do it. That's why we have our mixer coming up this Thursday. Come through. Long sandwich on Stockton Boulevard,
Stockton Boulevard, Vietnamese.
5 o'clock. You got to come through. I'm going to be DJing.
Yep, some
What are-
good Vietnamese food.
What are we talking about that day?
We are talking about the Stockton Boulevard plan. So shout out to our Department of Community Development, our planning division. They have been working for a couple of years on a Stockton Boulevard plan. and more importantly, the implementation grants that will support the plan, because the Neighborhood Development Action Team, we only work and do plans where we have implementation grants to support it.
Show us the
Yep.
money.
So
You
we're
ready
going to be
for-
making it rain
You
on
ready-
Stockton Boulevard.
For my hard planning questions. So
The bombastic
I'm
side.
always gonna be asking questions on here because I know there's somebody listening. The hell is a plan? And why does that matter to me?
Absolutely.
So can one of y'all at least give me at least 2 sentences of why is it important to see what this plan is all about and why does it matter?
Well, in life, you always have to have a plan. No matter what you're doing in life, you have to
Right.
have a plan. But this plan is specifically to planning. So one of the things we're looking at is how do we invest in this area and not displace the current residents that are there? How do we support the businesses that are there? We have a $2 billion project coming with the Aggie Square project. And so how do we ensure that folks that live in that community are able to benefit off of all of the investment that are coming there? How do we address some of the infrastructure? Whether it's roads, we know that Stockton Boulevard has one of the highest incidents of fatalities for folks walking. And so how do we address that? How do we address our the environmental justice component and our climate goals as it relates to there's no bike lanes on Stockton Boulevard. So what do we
Right,
need to
right.
do to plan for bike lanes? What people don't understanding when it comes to planning, it takes years and it takes a lot of money and time. And so it's going to touch on a little bit of all of that. And even the art components, right? What do people want to see in their communities to make the community look better, right? Even things like tree canopy, right? When you have tree canopy, the neighborhood looks better. It's a lot cooler. It's a lot cooler, which means folks are not spending as much on their heating and air bills. And so the plan will incorporate all of that. So that's why I will say you need a plan, because if it's not written down and it's just in your head, it's not a plan. And that's in anything, whether it's planning in your personal life. If you don't write it down and put it on paper, it doesn't exist. And it also is a way for us to leverage grant dollars and additional partnerships that will be needed. And so that's why you need the plan.
So in
Survive and thrive.
right. In essence, then this is y'all's chance to give feedback on the plan.
That's right.
You look at the plan and see what folks are thinking about doing, and then you can say, no, I don't want that. This is what I want. How come no one's saying that? Tell your friends. Tell them to give input too.
Tell your neighbor.
Tell your neighbor.
Plans decide where parks go, where parks don't go, where schools go, whether or not you can have drive-through places, right? Plans decide all of that. So
How big your sidewalks are.
how big your sidewalks are, how tall
What can
your
be-
homes can be.
What can be built and done there in specific parts, right?
That's right.
That's what's called zoning.
zoning. Yeah.
You can only have specific buildings or businesses in one area.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have businesses in neighborhoods,
Yeah.
etc.
So that's why you need a plan.
Yeah.
But more importantly, you need the implementation grants to support the plan.
Right.
Because nobody wants you to come and ask them, hey, what do you want? And they tell you, and then you're like, I don't have any money for it. So we wanted to make sure, like, what you want for Christmas?
Right.
Oh, but I don't have any money. So
Exactly.
I was
It's
just
what you
making a
asked me
list.
for.
Yeah. Well, come 10 years later, and then we'll see. I'm like, wait a minute.
yeah.
Then why you ask me right now if you're not gonna do it till 10 years later?
Right. Were you going to say something earlier? Did I cut you off?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So that's why you need a plan. But if you want to specifically know some more about plan, come on out to the mixer. We have mixers every third Thursday.
We'll have folks from planning there, right?
We'll have
That's
folks
right.
from planning there
Yep.
to ask the hard questions that Greg likes to ask me. But they will be there to answer those questions.
At least I won't be asking any questions on Thursday, though, because I'll be DJing.
How convenient.
Yeah. I had to do that at least one time.
That was perfect. Actually, that was perfect in
So.
time.
Okay. Right now, it is that time. It's been great having y'all here today, talking with y'all, and those of you listening to us. Hope this was useful for you. Don't forget to follow us on social media. Instagram at CE Team Sac, Facebook at CE Team Sac. We have a Linktree, linktr.ee/CE Team Sac. But, you're not going to write that down. We
And
got the links in the video, though, if you want.
When is our TikTok coming?
Ooh.
Oh, Danielle's not here to answer that.
Oh, okay.
I'm not the TikTok person.
TikTok is coming.
Yeah. As ever, thank you for vibing with us.
Thanks for vibing with us. Come to the mixer, ask your
Yeah.
questions.
And we'll see y'all. Peace.
Peace.